to take us on a tour around this lake. Because the lake was created, it wasn't always here, but pretty soon after it was created, in the 1920s, something happened to a lady named Ruby Nelms. Now, as you drive up, you'll see that spillway, that rock spillway where the water spills over, yes? As you pass by that spillway, look up and to the left, because right there used to be the house of Ruby Nelms. Tall Ruby, she had a husband who came up about yay high to her. She'd lean over and lean down to kiss him. But she had to be kind of sneaky about it because her daddy also lived in that house with him. So as soon as her daddy, G.A., wasn't looking, and they all lived in this little house just to the left of what's we now know as the spillway of the dam. Well, as they lived up there, it was right after the dam had been built, and there were about 40 different men who had come to help build that dam. And this is key to understanding that they followed after these 40 men who had already been up there building the dam and had been up in their area for a while, because every morning it was Rufus and G.A.'s job to take care of that dam and watch over it, but also they had another job down the mountain just a little ways from that lake, because this lake was made to create a water source for all of Kingsport. That water flowed down, and I don't want you to miss this part, that water flowed down the mountain. And for several years, the people down in Kingsport, they would turn on their tap water that flowed down from that lake, and some people would drink that water and they would say, well, that tastes like bark. And they would take another sip and, well, that tastes like moss. And some would take a sip, that tastes like a deer stepped into it, because there was no water filtration from the lake water flowing down into the taps in Kingsport. I don't want you to miss this. For a few years, they were drinking straight lake water until finally they built a filtration plant, and that was Rufus and G.A.'s job. They were manning that filtration plant just down from the lake. And so every morning, Ruby, she'd make the biscuits and she'd serve them to the menfolk, and they'd get up and stretch and they'd go out back of the house, and Ruby, she would do a special dance, and I think some of y'all know this dance. As she was cleaning, she'd do a dance of a morning. She'd be cleaning the dish, and she'd run her water. I hear somebody laughing because you know what this is. Don't play like you don't. Because she was waiting patiently for her husband and for her father, who were out back of the house using the facilities. It's the pee-pee dance. Y'all know that, some of y'all may know this dance. And she was waiting on her husband and her father to go out and use the outhouse. Now, how many of you all have ever had the privilege of being able to use an outhouse before? How many of you have ever had the privilege of being able to build an outhouse before? Oh my goodness, look at this. Brave heroes, they deserve the applause. How many of you all have no clue what an outhouse is? What is this lady talking about? Thank you for being honest. Yes. If you walk down that hill just a little ways, you'll see what we call our modern day outhouses. It's a potty in the woods. And it's a portalet that's right down there that all of us get to use. The mountain and the park has provided a visual aid for this story tonight. So you can visit our modern day portalet, our modern day outhouse. But some things you need to know about an outhouse to understand what happened to Ruby on this fateful day in July of 1925. An outhouse is a slender thing. And Ruby, she was a tall lady, so it was tall and slender, their outhouse was, with a door. You go inside, and it has a seat to it. And you sit down, just like you people are right now, and you just relax in your outhouse of privacy. An outhouse is slender, it has a seat to it, and an outhouse is portable. You dig a hole, you put that outhouse over the hole, and when that hole fills up, well, you just move the outhouse to a new hole, and you fill in that old hole. Well, how many men had been out there building that dam for over a year? 40. Out here every day. They had made so many holes and filled them in that the nails didn't have that many fresh places to dig a hole, so they kept bringing that outhouse further and further away from the house. And finally, in July of 1925, one morning, Ruby was doing her dance that she does every morning. And as soon as she saw that her husband and her father had gone down that hill to go down to that filtration plant, she flung off her apron, brushed those crumbs off, and she was off. She went running. And if she hadn't been in such an all-fire hurry, she might have noticed when she got into the outhouse and closed that door and sat down, she might have noticed a smushing sound. And Rufus and G.A., who were down at that filtration plant down the hill, they looked up, and it was one of those moments where time stops and you consider the life choices you have made that led to this moment. Because as Rufus looked up, he saw where that outhouse was starting to pitch and lean backwards a little ways. And true story, let me remind you, based on research. It started to pitch backwards, and Rufus wondered if maybe the hole he had dug was a mite too wide, and maybe it lacked the structural integrity that his other previous holes had, and he could see where the back supports of it, where the hole was starting to collapse in on itself, and the back supports were coming out from behind where that outhouse was. And G.A., he wondered if maybe he had put that outhouse just a mite too close to the end of the slope that was headed down that mountain. Because they watched, and if they could have seen Ruby inside there, just hanging on like a cat, watching her 9 lives fly by her as Ruby in her outhouse began to tumble off the mountain, rolling and spinning, leaving a trail of branches behind her.
Oh, yeah.
And she was coming down in her poo-poo mobile of destruction, and she landed in an almighty crash into a pokeberry bush. And her husband and her father came running up the mountain. There she came out of there, just mad as anything. She was unwiped and wiped out. And she clambered out of there. Ruby, are you okay? They saw something coming red on her arms, and I landed in a pokeberry bush. It's just the berry juice, and you could see where that berry juice was starting to turn purple on her as it dried. Well, they got her up the hill. They got her cleaned off. She liked to never got those pokeberry stains off of her. But I tell you, not soon after that, they built Ruby a new outhouse. It was wide and sturdy. And it had a little seat in it that looked out over a window that they had built that looked out over the lake, so she never felt trapped again. And while none of us may envy Ruby for falling off the mountain in her outhouse that day, I envy her for one thing. That woman got her upgraded bathroom. And it had the prettiest view in town. That's Ruby Nels. So Ruby was one of the ladies who lived up on this mountain. We're going to go back in time and around this lake a little more, back over here. Because a long time ago, long before the dam and before the lake was here, that area was dry ground. And there was a road. Now, as you all drove in, did you notice how on one side there was the mountain, and on the other side, there was a steep drop-off? Down there is called Dolan Branch. And there was a road that ran all the way up Dolan Branch, and it came up to where the lake is now, only it was dry ground. And that was the intersection of all of these roads that led to different neighborhoods, up and back in these hollers, in these woods on this mountain. And there was a road that led to Back Hollow, and a road that led up to Front Hollow, and all back there were cabins and houses. And each of those cabins and houses had daffodils planted out front of them. And those daffodils would come up every spring, bulbs that those settlers had brought with them and planted into the ground in front of and behind their cabins and houses. And there's also another plant that you'll see in these woods. It's a yucca plant. It's different from yucca. I feel obligated to say this with youngins around. Yucca you can eat, yucca do not eat. It's yucca. Cassava you can eat, but yucca was used. It's a spiky plant. And if you look around carefully, it's like a little secret. You can see it. And that spiky plant was used as medicine, but it also served another purpose for the settlers who moved up here. They used the yucca to keep the spirits at rest. It kept spirits from wandering close to the houses and the neighborhoods, so they'd plant that yucca outside of their houses along with those daffodils. Well, that was down those roads leading to Back Hollow and Front Hollow. Up here, if you came up mountain, you'd come up the East End Road, where a whole other neighborhood of families lived, including the Roberts. And in 1850, if you'd been listening very carefully, you could have heard a door opening, and you would have heard a woman singing to her baby girl. Hush, you sweet one, don't you cry. I'll be with you all of the night. She'd sing to her baby girl, and sometimes her husband, he'd join in on the fiddle. They'd quiet that little girl. Sounds like we need that song. Y'all want to sing it with me? It works. Hush, you sweet one, don't you cry. I'll be with you all of